What's up, guys? We have our first video on our teaching site of the YouTube, and I am super excited. So let's just jump right in. We're going to be starting our first teaching series, our first collection of talks and meditations and ideas on 1 Peter. And I chose 1 Peter specifically because I think it kind of applies to how 20-somethings feel about their faith, especially if they've kept their faith through college. Like, you just feel like they don't have a lot of resources. It's kind of getting tougher to be open about your faith and truly be expressive about it. And so I wanted to go through 1 Peter together so that we can find some encouragement. Because the reason that Peter wrote that first epistle, that first letter, is to encourage people who were going through like really tough times. And so specifically what was happening with the Christians at that time was that they were going through a lot of persecution. And so what Peter did was he saw all the suffering, all the hardship, all the heartache that was happening, and he decided like, hey, like, as somebody who's been close to Jesus and who has gone through suffering himself, he wanted to encourage the church of that time, and now encouraging us in our time to keep the faith and keep going. And so while I was looking through and like formulating how we could kind of orient our minds to understand the big picture of 1 Peter, I came across three things that I think you can find throughout the letter as you read it. And the first thing is that you belong to God. One of the most comforting things about being a believer is that you know that you are not doing this alone, that you belong to the King of Kings, to the Lord of Lords, and He is in your corner. He's personally involved in everything that is going on in your life, whether you like love a Netflix show and you're really mad at this character did a certain thing, or something really traumatic is happening in your life, like you don't know how to pay for your grad school, or you just got into an accident and you don't have money to pay for the bills because you paid for everything else, and you're 20-something. You just started out, or you're a college student and you really like this person, but you really don't know if this is something you should pursue, or if it's just different things in life. Like you want to like drop out and pursue creativity full time, and you don't even know how to do that. So there's so many things that can happen in your life that will make your life difficult. And on top of that, being a believer is becoming less and less popular at the current moment. And so looking for people who would be able to provide you with some support is really hard. And sometimes you lose sight of the fact that you're not in control, God is. And if you follow God and remember whose you are, then you can start to work through and walk through things that are going in your life. So number one, the first thing that we learn through 1 Peter is that you belong to God. The second thing that we learn when we're looking at 1 Peter is that you belong to each other. The greatest thing about being a believer is that you're not doing this alone. That there's local churches that are out there that would love to have you as a part of their congregation as a 20-something, because you have so much energy, you have so much experience about people in your age group that they would just love to connect with you and just pick your brain about things. And there's other 20-somethings that are looking for people just like you to connect with. And so you can find relationship and you can find strength and encouragement when you're with fellow believers. So I would really encourage you guys to seek out local churches in your community. I hope in the future to like provide you some like good podcasts and stuff to listen to as we go on this journey together. But that's one of the focuses of 1 Peter, is to remind believers that they don't suffer alone, that they don't have to go through walking with the Lord alone and going through struggles alone, that they have each other. And he was encouraging them to encourage each other through their suffering. And the last thing that 1 Peter shows us is that we belong to suffering. We are people of suffering. Unfortunately, Jesus doesn't promise us big houses, big cars, super expensive clothes, or accolades. He promises that He will be with us, and He also promises that we will go through some tough stuff. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that when we have suffering, when we go through tough things in our lives, it's not that we just have to like faith our way through it and not like really go through that experience of suffering and like call it what it is, which is like hard times. But the beautiful thing about it is that when we understand that suffering is a part of the life that we live on this broken world, then we can start to invite God into our pain, because we know that's something that is going to happen to us. We know that there's people who are going to be able to support us because we know that we're going to encounter suffering. And it makes us more empathetic too, because if we understand that life isn't easy and that things are going to get hard, when hard things happen to other people, instead of hounding them and not being able to empathize with their struggles, the Bible says that we laugh at those who laugh and we cry with those who cry. And so when we understand that we belong to suffering, that suffering is going to be a part of our journey, it gives us the ability to anticipate it and also to be empathetic to other people who are going through suffering. So that's the overview of 1 Peter. Over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, we're going to be diving deeper into it. We're going to be going verse by verse, chapter by chapter, exploring all the different themes and topics that 1 Peter discusses, with that overall theme of that you belong to God, you belong to each other, and that you belong to suffering. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Drop a comment if anything was interesting that you listened to. Please like and subscribe, and share this with your friends. If you have more creative people in your life and you're a 20-something around college age or post-college and you want to connect, just comment in the comments and connect with each other, hang out, find new friends, and grow in your faith together. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.